In the third year of my marriage to Derek Hale, he discovered a new flame. The evening I caught them, he nonchalantly gave me some advice. Mia, marriages need a bit of spice to keep things lively. Tom, Louise's fiancé, is an awesome guy. Want to give him a shot? That night, the four of us found ourselves in a secluded private room, each fully aware of the tension. Jason Reed's tone was icy and detached. Sorry, I'm not down for other people's wives. Derek inexplicably felt a weight lift from his chest and grinned. It was a bummer. I couldn't help but sneak a peek at Jason. Just a couple of nights ago, in bed, he had clung to me with unfulfilled passion. He hadn't mentioned it then. 3 years into our union, it wasn't the first time Derek Hale was whispered about having an affair, but with previous women, he either played along for kicks or had a fling that ended swiftly. They never made a scene in front of me, but this time, he was clearly smitten. The woman was Emily, raised overseas with a daring attitude. When I walked into the house, Emily was sprawled on the couch, sporting a fresh nightdress I hadn't worn yet. There was a soft sound of water from the bathroom. Derek was probably showering. Seeing me, Emily just flashed a seductive smile. Mrs. Hale. I stood in the hallway with my suitcase. It took a moment before I remarked dryly, "Looks like you're rocking my nightdress." Emily gave me a cold glance. She stood up, showcasing her curvy and full figure. "But this nightdress suits me better, Mrs. Hale. You're kind of too slim to fill it out." The nightdress was a lace camisole with built-in padding. I vaguely recalled Derek had bought it for me last month. Men's taste is usually like that, but I've been thin since childhood from dancing. I'm not Derek's type at all. And Emily, even I found her vibrant and captivating. No wonder Derek was so into her this time. 3 months into their affair, they were still like a passionate couple. He couldn't wait to bring her back to our marital home while I was away. "Then it's yours. I wouldn't mess with it again anyway." "If she digs it, she can have it. Mrs. Hale, you're so generous." Emily raised an eyebrow and chuckled. "You crashing here?" I calmly faced the woman before me. The long flight had left me exhausted, and all I wanted was a shower and some sleep. If Emily was staying, I'd book a hotel for the night. Before Emily could reply, the bathroom door swung open. Derek emerged wrapped only in a towel. Spotting me, he was briefly taken aback but quickly regained his usual composure. "Mia, why didn't you call before heading back?" He set the towel down and approached me. His voice softened, becoming quite gentle. "Sorry, I'll send her away right away." "All right." I pushed him gently. "I'm gonna shower first. I'm beat." Derek thoughtfully tidied my slightly tousled hair. "Wait for me." I had just finished my shower and was on my skincare routine when Derek returned after dropping off Emily. He stood beside me, not bothering to hide the kiss marks on his neck. My fingers paused as I applied my face cream. "Miss Emily doesn't seem single. Don't you think you should be more careful?" He glanced at my serious expression and suddenly laughed. He leaned in, grabbing my shoulder. "Mia, if a marriage becomes stagnant, something's bound to happen. We can't get a divorce, so a little thrill is a necessary spice for marriage." So I looked at my reflection in the mirror. Growing up in families like ours, I always knew marriage wasn't a free pass. But when we tied the knot, I still held some hopes for my husband. At least we had known each other since childhood, like childhood sweethearts. At least after our engagement, he was thoughtful and kind to me. But when he kept getting tangled with other women, I fully awakened. "What are you saying? Emily's fiancé is supposed to be a great guy." Derek lowered his head and gently kissed my cheek. "Mia, why don't you give him a try? I remember that actor you like has a similar vibe. We can meet him as friends first. If you feel good about him and think it's worth a shot, then take the next step. How about that?" I stared at myself in the mirror, somewhat dazed. My husband was trying to get me to accept a stranger, to develop a twisted relationship. But he didn't know my trip to Metro City wasn't for work. It was to meet the man I once had a fiery affair with. We spent 3 days and nights together, indulging in hedonism. It was also the first time I tasted the sweetness of revenge. "All right, let's meet him first." The friendly meeting was set for the next evening. While I was picking out clothes, Derek suddenly asked, "Mia, what happened to your neck?" I was raising my hand to put on a pearl necklace. Glancing at the kiss mark, I replied calmly, A mosquito got into the hotel and bit me. Want to cover it up? No need. Derek didn't press further and started selecting a tie. In the end, I didn't pick my favorite light-colored dress, but went for a long red gown. He couldn't help but take another look. Don't you hate bright colors but went for a long red dress? Strange choice. Don't you hate bright colored dresses? I'm kinda over light colors. He helped me zip up and watched as I grabbed a lipstick to touch up my makeup. He suddenly said a bit sourly, I kinda don't want you to leave now. Then I won't go. He frowned, pondering for a moment. But we already set the date. It wouldn't look good to bail. All right, I'll switch my shoes. I bent down to slip into high heels. Derek's gaze settled on my ankles and calves. Mia, why do I feel like you've gotten more stunning since your business trip? I smiled at him. Maybe the vibe in Metro City is better for me. In the most secluded top-floor suite of an exclusive club, when Derek walked in holding my arm, I immediately noticed the man sitting opposite Emily. A black tailored suit with sharp lapels, a neatly buttoned-up shirt, that face, noble and distant. His entire presence radiated an air of inaccessibility. Even the usually bold and outgoing Emily was sitting quietly. I looked away after just one glance. My fingers nervously clutched my handbag. I never expected it. The Mr. Reed who had tangled with me day and night in Metro City turned out to be the man I was meeting tonight, Emily's fiancé. Mr. Reed, this is my wife, Mia Brooks. When Derek introduced me, he seemed really nervous, his voice oddly shaky. Mr. Reed, nice to meet you. As I looked at Jason Reed again, I had already composed myself. We're all adults. We get each other. Jason Reed also looked up at me, as if seeing me for the first time. Miss Brooks, pleasure to meet you. My seat was next to Jason. Derek sat beside Emily. The vibe in the room was super weird, but there was an unspoken understanding among us. Halfway through the meal, maybe because she'd had some wine, Emily started to open up more. Jason, what do you think of Mrs. Hale? I told you she's gorgeous, just too skinny, but you seem to like girls who are fair and slim? I didn't respond, just looked down and quietly ate a small piece of dessert until a hot, large hand suddenly landed on my bare knee. My hand trembled, and the lovely dessert was crushed into a mess. Derek quickly asked with concern, Mia, what's wrong? I shook my head. Nothing, just slipped. But the back of my neck was burning. My ears felt like they were on fire. I had noticed some swelling in my earlobes that morning, and now they suddenly felt both sore and itchy. I couldn't help but raise my hand and gently rub them. Then I suddenly remembered. That night, amidst the passion, that person had sucked on my earlobes. And at that moment, under the white lace tablecloth, that person's long, strong fingers had already reached the inside of my thigh. I was so anxious that my whole body tensed up. Just then, Jason spoke. His voice was very calm, neither rushed nor slow, but there was no warmth in it. Sorry, I'm not into other people's wives. I couldn't help but steal a glance at him. That night in bed, when he was desperately clinging to me. He didn't mention it. Emily smiled awkwardly. Derek was initially a bit stunned, but then unconsciously relaxed his brows. He smiled and said, That's really a shame? I sat quietly with my eyes downcast, but my hand slowly reached under the tablecloth, trying to push away the intrusive hand, but Jason instead grabbed my fingers in return. I wasn't ready, and frowned with a soft gasp. Mia? Derek looked at me, about to stand up. I accidentally hit my hand. It's nothing. I was so nervous that a thin layer of sweat covered my back. Jason gently squeezed my hand as if to calm me. Then he let go. I breathed a slight sigh of relief, straightening my messy skirt. As we were leaving, Derek originally wanted to drive me back, but he suddenly got a call. With a troubled expression, he looked at me. Mia, there's something going on at the company. Should I have the driver pick you up? Emily suddenly chimed in. How about Jason and I take Mrs. Hale back? Wouldn't that be too much trouble? Derek glanced cautiously at Jason. Jason neither agreed nor refused. It's no trouble at all, Mr. Hale. You go ahead and handle your stuff, Emily quickly added. Derek gently reminded me a few more times, promising to come home early, then hurriedly left. But as soon as he was gone, Emily excused herself to the restroom and vanished. I started sensing something was off. Instinctively, I glanced at Jason beside me. He was leaning back in his chair, looking relaxed, but there was an inherent air of superiority about him. I grabbed my handbag, intending to stand up, but Jason reached out and grabbed my wrist. "The red dress is stunning." My eyelashes fluttered and I bit my lip, looking away. I just picked it randomly, but my cheeks were slightly flushed. When choosing the dress, I had actually thought about that night. He had complimented how good I looked in red, saying it matched my complexion. Jason suddenly chuckled, softly. The fingers holding my wrist tightened slightly. I was pulled into his arms, sitting firmly in his lap. But as soon as I touched his hard thigh, I felt a burn and immediately tried to get up. But Jason held my waist, stopping me. I slowly closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Honestly, if I had known Jason had a fiancé, I wouldn't have gone to the hotel with him that night. When I asked him in Metro City, he said he wasn't married and didn't have a girlfriend. So it wasn't really his fault. He didn't lie to me. He truly wasn't married and didn't have a girlfriend. He just had a fiancé. "Mr. Reed, I'm really sorry." "Why are you apologizing?" "First, I didn't expect you to have a fiancé. It was my fault for not thinking things through. Second, I knew Emily's fiancé's last name was Reed, but I didn't think much of it and still came here causing you trouble." I lowered my eyes and pried his fingers off my waist. I stood up and sincerely apologized. "What trouble did I cause you?" Jason leaned back in his chair, his tone still unhurried. But I felt my heart tighten with each beat. The light cast shadows over his head, enveloping his deep-set eyes. His nose was high and prominent, making his features exceptionally defined and handsome. He was slightly taller than Derek. He looked very sharp in his suit, with broad shoulders, a narrow waist, and a lean figure. But without his clothes, his shoulders, back, waist, and abdomen were even more muscular than Derek's. A man like this possessed great physical strength. He also had the ambition and aura built from wealth and power. I knew that having provoked him, it would be unlikely to escape unscathed. But at this moment, I had no choice but to humble myself as much as possible, hoping he would let it go without making a fuss. "You just said you have no interest in other people's wives." I gathered my courage to meet his gaze. "That's why I was worried about causing you trouble." "Don't you think it's a bit late to worry now?" I was speechless. Yes, he never asked me. But at that time, I didn't honestly tell him I was already married. "I'm sorry," I could only apologize again. Feeling so embarrassed that I didn't dare to look at him, my voice trembled. "You should have noticed the relationship between Emily and me." I nodded slightly. Indeed, there seemed to be a very open relationship between them. He didn't seem to mind his fiancée being involved with other men. "So, you don't need to worry about Emily causing me any trouble." "But Mia Brooks," Jason said this as he slowly stood up. He took a step towards me, his tall figure completely overshadowing me. I instinctively stepped back, but he lightly gripped my wrist. "I mind a lot that you're Derek Hale's wife." I widened my eyes in surprise. "Mr. Reed." When Jason wasn't smiling, his eyes were very cold. His long fingers moved up from my wrist, finally pinching my chin. I trembled slightly. A man who could make someone as proud as Derek feel fear, I didn't dare to imagine how terrifying his background could be. I had deceived him, embarrassed him. How would he retaliate against me? "I'm sorry, White, son. Besides, I'm sorry. What else can you say?" I turned my face away, feeling the pain in my chin. I couldn't help but want to cry, but then Jason suddenly lowered his head and kissed me. I instinctively tried to push him away. Jason, however, held my wrist and pinned it behind my back. "Mia." His kiss wasn't deep, even somewhat gentle. "Open your mouth." Jason lightly bit my lip. "Give me some response." "Then we still have room to talk, Mia." I didn't know to what extent I needed to satisfy him. I didn't know how long I had to kiss him or how long it would last. I just vaguely remembered. It seemed that in the end, my legs were so weak I could hardly stand. Jason and I were on the verge of losing control, but he pushed me away. I fell onto the chair, my dress in disarray. Jason calmly straightened his clothes. "Finally, let's go. I'll take you home." The car door opened, and Emily was already sitting in the front passenger seat. I didn't look at her, but out of the corner of my eye, I noticed she was already seated there. I didn't glance at her, but as I got into the car, Emily glanced at me several times. When we arrived at the villa gate, I softly thanked him and got out of the car. The car didn't linger and quickly drove away. Derek hadn't returned yet. I tiredly took a shower and was blow-drying my hair. He called me. "Sorry, Mia, there's a serious issue at the company that I haven't finished dealing with. I might not come back tonight." After hanging up, I lay on the bed. There were no chaotic thoughts in my mind, nor was I interested in verifying the truth of Derek's words. But I thought it was just another grand excuse to cover up his actions. I just didn't expect that, this time, Derek wasn't lying to me. For a whole week, Derek hadn't returned home. There was also no news from Jason, and I didn't know. At this moment, Derek was standing dejectedly in Jason's office. On the desk in front of him, there was a stack of photos. The photos showed every time he had secretly met with Emily. Mr. Reed. Derek felt cold sweat soaking his entire body. He regretted it immensely. Regretted being seduced by Emily, regretted getting involved with a woman he should never have provoked, and most of all, regretted being so complacent on his own turf that he got caught in so many photos, even though Emily and Jason had their own affairs and didn't interfere with each other. But messing around in private was one thing, causing a scandal was another. Moreover, these photos were bought by Jason at a high price. For the first time in his life, Derek felt the fear of being on the brink of ruin. "Mr. Hale, since things have come to this, let's talk about how to resolve it." Jason was sitting, but his presence still completely overwhelmed Derek. "You and I are both businessmen, and we should be very clear that businessmen never make losing deals." "I understand. Never make losing deals." "I understand, Mr. Reed. It was my oversight." Derek was drenched in sweat. At this point, he understood everything. The series of challenges his company faced were all Jason Reed's means of retaliation, but he couldn't even complain, because all of this was his own doing. "Mr. Hale, there's no need to say that to me. I just need a reasonable solution now, and compensation." Derek grabbed at what seemed to be his lifeline. "Mr. Reed, however you want to resolve this, as long as I can do it." Jason looked up at him, his gaze very calm. "How is Miss Brooks doing lately?" Derek was stunned for a moment. Then it was as if a sudden jolt ran through his heart. But it also made him instantly clear-headed. Jason Reed wouldn't mention Mia for no reason. So he was interested in Mia? But clearly, last time, according to what Emily said, he took Mia to the meeting. Jason's attitude was very clear. He didn't like married women. "I've been swamped with company stuff lately and haven't been home, so I haven't seen her." Derek carefully chose his words, watching Jason's expression. His face showed no emotion, just a slight nod. "Give my regards to Miss Brooks for me." "All right, sure, Mr. Reed." Derek watched as Jason stood up. It seemed like he wanted to end the conversation. But today's matter wasn't resolved. If Jason didn't relent, Derek couldn't imagine how long his company could hold out. His face turned pale, and he gritted his teeth. "Mr. Reed, are you free tonight?" Jason didn't respond, just glanced at him. "If you're free, I'd like to invite you to dinner." "No time." "No time, huh? I was thinking of inviting Mia along." Jason seemed to smile slightly. "If Miss Brooks is coming, then I have time. It's an honor that you join us. I'll make the reservation right now." Derek felt the heavy weight on his heart suddenly lift. But at the same time, an indescribable emotion surged within him. Even if he were clueless, he could see it. Jason was interested in his wife, and he had to pretend to know nothing, personally sending his wife to him, to protect himself and his company. Derek had no choice. He didn't even struggle for long. "By the way, Mr. Hale." As Jason was leaving the office, he suddenly stopped and looked back at Derek. "As I said before, I'm not into other men's wives." It took Derek a full half-minute to come to his senses. He finally understood how foolish he had been. It turned out that at their last meeting, when Jason said that, it didn't mean he wasn't interested in Mia. He was subtly yet clearly reminding him that Jason deeply cared about the fact that Mia was Derek's wife. When Derek returned, I had just woken up from a nap. He walked into the bedroom and stood by the bed, watching me for a while. He didn't say anything, Is the issue with the company still unresolved? I frowned and asked. Mia. Derek suddenly held my hand. I've wronged you these years we've been married. I was a bit surprised, but before I could say anything, he softly said, Let's get a divorce. Don't worry, the divorce won't affect the Hale family, nor will it impact any of your interests. Derek's face was pale, but his eyes were bloodshot. It seemed he didn't need my answer, just talking to himself. Actually, I had thought about divorce before, but if I divorced, I would be forced into another arranged marriage by my family. It would just be the same tragedy repeated. Weighing the pros and cons, at least Derek and I had known each other for many years, and he still had some conscience. The Hale family and the Brooks family now had deep business ties, but now Derek brought it up himself. I suddenly felt that divorce might not be a bad thing, especially since Derek said it wouldn't affect the Hale family. I had long been disillusioned with marriage. Maybe in the future, I would remain single. It only took 2 hours to finalize the divorce between Derek and me. The terms of the divorce agreement were favorable to both me and the Hale family. I didn't think too long before signing it. Let's have a meal together. Derek glanced at me while driving. Mia, I've booked a table at your favorite restaurant. I agreed without much thought. I just simply thought it would be our last meal together, but I never expected Jason to come. I looked at Derek, my voice a bit stiff. So you invited Mr. Reed? He looked away. Mia, it's just a meal together. Just a meal together? I asked back. Derek avoided answering, but I already knew the answer. I didn't say anything, just lowered my head, looking at the lingering mark on my ring finger where my wedding ring used to be, even though my love for Derek had long faded. Even if I didn't love him or care about him anymore. But knowing that my former husband was plotting to push me to another man, I still felt painful and shameful. My tears started to fall uncontrollably, in large drops. But Derek stood silently beside me for a few seconds, then turned and left. He even very considerately closed the room door. Jason walked up to me. He didn't comfort me, nor did he say any cold or mocking words. He just patiently wiped my tears with a tissue. I cried for as long as he wiped, until I was exhausted, my eyes swollen. He then pulled me up. Go wash your face and then eat something. I went to the bathroom. Jason walked to the end of the hallway to smoke. I didn't know when Derek followed. Mr. Reed, Mia and I are already divorced. Jason's voice was very cold. From now on, remember your own identity. Derek suddenly smiled. Mr. Reed, someone like you wouldn't have just one woman. Jason turned around, looking at him coldly. Derek lowered his eyes to the ground. When you return to Metro City and things are settled, I will remarry Mia. Derek Hale. He instinctively looked up. This was the first time Jason called him by his full name. You won't have that chance. Derek's eyes widened suddenly. Mr. Reed, what do you mean by that? He slowly extinguished the burning cigarette. Do you think I'm just momentarily infatuated? Jason looked down at the man in front of him. I'm just momentarily infatuated. Jason looked down at the man in front of him. He was calm and confident, having achieved his goal step by step. He had lost count of the sleepless nights he had endured. But Jason knew clearly, from now on, every night Mia would be by his side. Derek's eyes widened in panic, retreating a few steps. Pointing at Jason, his voice trembling, You set me up. You trapped me. You even pushed your own fiancé as a pawn. Jason looked at him as if he were a fool. Derek Hale, you're even dumber than I thought. A woman like Emily could never be his fiancé. And how could a man use his own fiancé as a pawn to tempt a rival? Jason Reed, aren't you afraid I'll tell Mia? Go ahead. Jason's voice was indifferent, walking forward leisurely. If you want everyone to see your pathetic side, then go tell Mia everything. Jason Reed, you're shameless, shameless. Derek's eyes were red with anger, but his voice clearly lowered. Jason no longer cared about any of this. Shameless, or despicable, it didn't matter. It was better than the torment of sleepless nights thinking of that name, that woman. Coming out of the bathroom, I had just hung up a call with my mom. Then Derek's mother called. It seems our divorce is already known to both of our families. I hesitated for a moment and, for the first time, refused to answer Mrs. Hale's call. The Brooks family was once a scholarly family, but it had declined in recent years. The Hale family, on the other hand, were nouveau riche, wealthy, and powerful. When we got engaged, our families were still on par with each other, and Mrs. Hale treated me quite well. But by the time we got married, the Hale family's status had skyrocketed, and her attitude towards me became condescending. Moreover, in the 3 years after our marriage, I never had a child. In the end, Mrs. Hale blamed it all on me. But less than 5 minutes after I refused to take her call, my mom called again. Mia, weren't you being a bit rude? Also, divorce is not a trivial matter. We, the elders, haven't agreed to it, so it doesn't count. I felt completely exhausted, both mentally and physically. You go and talk to Derek Hale and stop calling me. As soon as I hung up, my phone started vibrating again, so I simply turned it off. Just as I was feeling upset, Jason suddenly spoke. Do you want to go to Metro City with me for a while, just to relax? I couldn't help but scrutinize the man in front of me. He comes from a privileged background, with unfathomable connections. Just because of a simple sentence, I'm not into other people's wives. I went from being Mrs. Hale to being single. A man like him, whatever he wants, he can get effortlessly. Besides, that night, I chose him myself. The hotel, I went there willingly. Even the last time I went to Metro City, no one forced me. Those 3 days and nights were very happy for me. Before, I was Mrs. Hale, now I'm single. Even the last psychological shackles had been removed. However, at that time, I thought he was single, but now he has a fiancé. Mr. Reed, I appreciate your kindness, but since I know you have a fiancé, Mia... Jason suddenly took my hand, his thumb brushing over the faint mark on my ring finger. It was only then that I noticed. Jason's left hand didn't have an engagement ring. From the first time I was with him, it was like this, but this doesn't necessarily prove anything. Many married men don't wear their wedding rings and pretend to be single. Instinctively, I tried to pull my hand back, but Jason looked at me and spoke very seriously. Emily and I have no relationship. She's an artist signed overseas with one of my entertainment companies. I give her resources and she pretends to be my fiancé to help me avoid some unnecessary troubles. You know, too many people want to push women towards me. As he said this, he lightly held my hand. Mia, do you have any other questions? My mind went blank for a moment, but in a flash, I caught on to one key point. Was your involvement in Emily and Derek's affair intentional? Their relationship was more like a superior and subordinate rather than collaborators. Emily was clearly afraid of him and followed his every command. Even if she was just a shield, Emily wouldn't dare to be ambiguous with another man. Jason's expression didn't change at all. He looked at me openly. Emily met Derek while filming a promotional video for my company. That night, Derek asked her out for dinner. Emily refused him 3 times, but Derek kept pestering her. Jason chuckled. Mia, I didn't know you at the time, so why would I instruct Emily to seduce Derek Hale? He wasn't wrong. Jason was far away in Metro City at the time and didn't seem like such a bored person. Moreover, a woman like Emily was practically tailor-made for Derek. Every inch of her body matched his preferences. I understand. Actually, investigating these issues now seems meaningless. Derek didn't cheat because he met Emily. Even without Emily, there would be other women. I suddenly felt like I had let go of everything, but I didn't want to think about the past at all. How long are we going for? I asked Jason. How long do you want to go for? 2 weeks? Or 1 week? How long does Derek's interest in women last? It might serve as a reference, but sometimes it's a day, sometimes a week. Emily lasted 3 months. Maybe in the future there will be even longer ones. I was a bit uncertain. Jason spoke slowly. It's just a month until Christmas. Why not stay in Metro City for the holiday? During Christmas, there will be a cruise party over there, and they say there will be fireworks all night. After he finished, he added, I think the Hale family will be in chaos for a while. Derek's mother is quite difficult to deal with, and your mother staying here will only upset you. Why not go out for a while? I was somewhat moved by his words. Moreover, those 3 days in Metro City before, I got along very well with him. If you have fun, stay a bit longer. If you want to come back, I'll send you back. Mia, when you're with me, you don't need to have any worries. I seriously thought for a while, then nodded. All right. He seemed to be in a good mood. Let's go home first. You need a good rest today. He naturally held my hand and walked outside. We got into the car and returned to his place in the capital. The first time between a man and a woman is often awkward, but once the first time is over, everything afterwards seems to become natural. When I was changing my shoes, Jason gently wrapped his arm around my waist. When I straightened up, he had already pressed me against the door, lowering his head to kiss me. I had some red wine with dinner. The whole person was slightly tipsy. He carried me to the bathroom, and I hung limply on him, lying on his shoulder. You need to gain a little weight. Jason's hand stroked my back, his voice holding a smile, yet there was an indistinguishable tenderness. I could even feel his fingertips caressing every inch of my spine. Since I was young, dance instructors had been very strict about weight. I often went hungry, and I'm used to eating very little. Dieting is bad for your health. Remember last time in Metro City, you almost fainted from low blood sugar? He placed me on the sink, and small kisses fell on my neck. The hem of my skirt rolled up, resting on his pant seam. I was kissed by him to the point of being breathless, but eating more makes my stomach uncomfortable. No rush, we'll adjust it slowly. His hand touched the zipper on my back. The silky dress slid off me like water, piling up at my waist. His kisses trailed down my body. Mia, spread your legs. He used his knee to separate my calves, then held my ankles, wrapping them around his waist. Jason? I instinctively grabbed his strong arm. The light above us was softly shining down. Maybe it was because the light was too gentle. Even his eyebrows and eyes seemed soft. I was somewhat mesmerized, sinking into it. After a long time, the sink was a mess. Jason lightly kissed my sweaty forehead. Let's take a bath. I don't want to continue. All right. He agreed in words, but in reality, he was coaxing me. In the end, the bathroom became a mess too. The floor was covered with water. Jason, don't let the maids clean here tomorrow. He carried me back to the bedroom, his voice carrying a hint of laughter. All right, I'll clean it. I'm really tired. I don't want to continue. All right. I lay on his chest, yawned, and closed my eyes. Jason? I lay on his chest, yawned, and closed my eyes. Mia? If you ever want to end this, remember to tell me in advance. I didn't wait for his reply, sleepily opened my eyes to look at him, but just one look, and I couldn't stay awake any longer. Jason placed me on the bed, covered me with a blanket. I slept deeply, not knowing that after he bowed his head and kissed my brow tenderly, he got up to go to the balcony to make a call. Start preparing for what I instructed you before. Jason held his phone, gazing at the distant night sky. It's time for the Reed family to have a happy event. The day before I was to leave for Metro City, I invited my best friend Lily for dinner. As we were about to finish, Jason called me. Mia, I'll come pick you up later. Lily and I still wanted to chat for a while. And you don't need to pick me up. We can take a taxi back. Call me when you're done. I'll come pick you up. All right. After hanging up, Lily propped her chin on her hand, looking at me with interest. Mia, you seem a bit different. Really? When Derek used to pick you up, or when you got his calls, your expression wasn't like it is just now. What kind of expression? Lily smiled mischievously. How should I say it? You looked very gentle and feminine. I couldn't help but glare at her. I've always been gentle. It's different. Lily put away her smile and looked at me seriously. Mia, I hope you can be happy. In those years you were married, I never saw happiness on your face. I was a bit stunned. Happy? Actually, when we first got married during the honeymoon period, I should have been happy, but it quickly faded because of Derek's scandals and infidelity. Although I don't know much about that, Mr. Reed, but I know you well, Mia. You can't hide your state from me. Lily squeezed my hand tightly. You're my best friend, Mia. I hope this time you've met the right person in your life. But is it really like that? I thought about the night I first met Jason. Among so many people, why did I notice him? And why someone who always carefully followed the rules like me would suddenly have a rebellious and indulgent thought? And Jason, why would he agree to the invitation of a drunken, disheveled woman? From that night to the 3 days and nights later in Metro City, I always thought this was just a fleeting affair between adults. I never expected it to develop to this point. Yeah, I don't know what will happen this time going to Metro City with him, or how it will end, but life is full of one unknown after another. Maybe I don't need to think so much. Enjoying happiness with the person you like, that's enough. When Jason drove over, Lily and I looked outside through the window. The night in the capital was brightly lit. The traffic flowed like a tide, people coming and going. Jason got out of the car and walked towards the restaurant without taking his eyes off me. Lily winked at me. Not bad, a handsome guy who's low-key. My face suddenly turned red. Jason does look cold and unapproachable, but what he's like in private, outsiders don't know. Why are you blushing? Lily playfully pushed me. You sneaky girl, enjoying such a good man behind my back. No wonder your skin looks so amazing today. I thought you secretly did some new beauty project without telling me. Turns out it's your man nourishing you. Her words made me so restless that I grabbed my bag and stood up. You should quickly get into a relationship. Then I'll have a bunch of things to say to you, too. The day I arrived in Metro City, I received a call from an unknown number. It turned out to be Derek's mother. As soon as I picked up, Mrs. Hale began to berate me harshly. Mia Brooks, even though you and Derek are divorced, just days after the divorce, you went to Metro City with another man. Where does that leave the Hale family's reputation? Is this how your parents raised you? You've been married into the Hale family for 3 years, and we've always taken good care of you. Even though you couldn't have children, I didn't make Derek divorce you. But look at you. The moment the company had trouble, you just left. Mrs. Hale was clearly very angry, her words becoming sharper and sharper. I tell you, I cannot tolerate this. How many benefits have the Brooks family received from the Hale family over these years? You can't just be so ungrateful. I couldn't help but interrupt her. Mrs. Hale, if you have any issues with the business cooperation between our families, please talk to my father or brother. After all, I have never been involved in business matters from the beginning. If you have any objections to the divorce, please ask your son for the reasons. Mrs. Hale was taken aback by my words. Mia Brooks, what do you mean by that? Are you saying you have no fault at all? Mrs. Hale, please do not contact me again. Derek and I are divorced, and I have nothing to do with you anymore. Please do not bother me. Mia? I didn't want to say more and directly hung up the phone, but my mood was ruined by her. I sat on the sofa, silent. Jason pulled me up. Go change into a beautiful dress. I'll take you to watch the fireworks tonight. Jason? I was so tired. I didn't want to move or talk. Lying on his chest, my voice was weak. He stroked my hair. These troubles will be gone in the future. Really? Of course. Jason kissed me on the forehead. Don't be sad. Trust me. Women are emotional creatures. An hour ago, I was still feeling down. At this moment, I was wearing a new dress, standing under the night sky filled with fireworks. My mood suddenly brightened. There was an unexpected classical dance performance at the cruise party I was watching intently. Several dancing girls suddenly ran over and surrounded me on the stage. Since getting married, I had hardly participated in any performances, except in the dance studio. Dancing on stage felt like something from a bygone era, but I quickly caught up with the rhythm. As my skirt swirled, I realized Jason had chosen this dress with a plan in mind. After the dance ended, the music turned into a beautiful, melodious violin solo. Fireworks blossomed brilliantly in the night sky. Mia, dressed in formal attire, Jason walked towards me with a bouquet of roses. I was stunned. He looked like he was about to propose. But our relationship began on an impulse. Jason was already on one knee. Laughter and applause erupted around us. I was pushed in front of him by the crowd. My mind was in chaos. I hadn't even reacted. The diamond ring was already on my ring finger. Mia, can you help me put one on too? He looked at me, extending his left hand. At this moment, my heart suddenly calmed down. Jason Reed. I held the ring, smiled at him, but tears flowed uncontrollably. I am willing to trust you this once, but only this once. The ring slowly slipped onto his finger. He stood up and hugged me tightly. Mia, I will spend my life proving it to you. The Hale family hasn't bothered me again. I heard that Derek's company still hasn't improved, and he's been incredibly busy. Mrs. Hale is also busy, selecting a new daughter-in-law she approves of, so they can quickly marry her into the family and continue the Hale lineage. The Brooks family, on the other hand, calls frequently. Even my usually strict father has become much more gentle towards me, but I know very well. I won't let the Brooks family depend on Jason, nor will I bring unnecessary trouble to Jason. So I keep a polite but distant attitude towards the Brooks family. I heard that my father is very unhappy because of this. He even called me unfilial when he was drunk. But what is filial piety? Is sacrificing one's own happiness for the benefit of the family considered filial piety? Then I'd rather be an unfilial daughter. Jason and I got engaged in the blossoming month of March. When I got engaged, Lily naturally came to Metro City, but the once lively and cheerful girl now had a hint of sadness in her eyes. As soon as my engagement ceremony ended, she hurriedly flew back to the capital for a man. I was very worried about her, but Jason advised me, let her be. You can't force things like love. But Jason advised me, let her be. You can't force things like love. Is that so? Yes, love can't be forced, just like how I only have eyes for you and only love you. Jason, did you eat honey today? I couldn't help but laugh, feeling sweet inside. Wanna taste it? Jason leaned in to kiss me, and after dodging a few times, I finally let him have his way. Jason's perspective, asterisk, asterisk. When Mia and I got together, Derek Hale met with misfortune. His business faced repeated setbacks, leaving him heavily in debt. In a bad mood, he went to El City to relax. First, he lost money gambling, then he was scammed. He was found in a disheveled state, trapped in a hotel room. In the end, the Hale family scraped together $1 million to get him out. But he was completely ruined from then on. Mrs. Hale was so angry she almost died. I didn't tell Mia about any of this. She was about to become my bride, and our wedding was a joyous occasion. It shouldn't be ruined by these irrelevant people and events. Actually, Derek's downfall wasn't surprising. A man like him, fickle and lecherous, was bound to fall because of a woman sooner or later. I just felt a bit regretful. Why did I meet Mia so late? If we had met earlier, before she got married, she wouldn't have had to endure those 3 years of suffering. But I'm also grateful that night I didn't reject the slightly disheveled her. That night, I inexplicably brought her back to the hotel. After she showered, she stood before me like a fresh lily. Seeing her still gentle and beautiful face, I suddenly realized everything was destined. Just like the first time I saw her as a teenager, I was instantly captivated. Even after many years, I would still fall in love with her again. But Mia no longer remembered me. She had even become someone else's wife. But that didn't matter. Marriages can end in divorce, especially with such a despicable husband. When I untied her bathrobe and kissed her, she cried. I knew how much disappointment and grievance she had accumulated to make such a decision. I was very grateful she chose me, and I didn't reject her. At first, she was awkward and stiff, crying all the time. I comforted her for a long time until she adapted and succumbed. In the end, she became soft as water under me. I coaxed her to call my name, over and over, not letting her stop. She felt comfortable, but her gaze showed grievance. I held her, and she was very docile in my arms, maybe too tired to push me away. Half asleep, she still reminded me, tomorrow, we will be strangers. But how could she know at this point? How could I let go? It was from that night I made that decision, step by step, to bring her to my side. For the rest of my life, I would love only her with all my heart, but I would keep the secret until my last breath. Mia had changed into her wedding dress. I handed my phone to my assistant and turned to walk towards her. She looked at me with a shy and gentle smile. The white, luxurious, and exquisite wedding dress made her look like a lily. Just like when she was a teenager, wearing a white dress, riding a bike, playfully controlling the handlebars with one hand, holding an ice cream cone in the other. The ice cream was melting, staining her hand. She panicked a bit. The handlebars wobbled, and she lost control of the bike. She crashed straight into the front of my car. She fell, her calf was scraped, bleeding a lot, and she cried in pain. When I got out of the car to help her hands covered in melted ice cream smeared my shirt. She sobbed, but remembered to apologize to me. I took her to a nearby clinic. While the doctor disinfected her wound, she cried loudly. I covered her eyes so she wouldn't see the wound. And then I awkwardly tried to comfort her. Later, her classmates came to find her, saying the dance teacher was getting impatient. She broke free from my hand, thanked me hastily, and left in a hurry. At that time, I thought we would meet again soon. But unexpectedly, the next day, my mother and I were taken to Metro City by my biological father. My half-brother and his family had died in a car accident, leaving no children. I became my father's only son. My lowborn mother finally entered the Reed family as she had always wished. And I, originally an illegitimate child, suddenly became the sole heir. From that moment, my fate changed drastically. My life was arranged single-handedly by my domineering father. But when it came to marriage, I would never compromise. My father grew old, and the old lion had to bow to the younger generation. In the end, he had no choice but to yield. Mia, I looked at my wife, reaching out my hand to her. She shyly placed her hand lightly in my palm. I held her fingers tightly, and this time, I would never let go.